YouTube's algorithm's gonna fucking love this episode. Might as well put some tags on this for double penetration and a happy ending. Because we're going down Mew's rabbit hole today, you know what I'm saying? My fucking golden brain is on another level from you dumbass plebeians. So I guess I gotta lend you my wisdom. Why don't you rub one out before you meet the goddess herself? I hear it helps with your nerves. You don't blow your big load talking to this big-titted bombshell way out of your league. I'm sure all you're doing is watching furry porn and applying to be a mod for some streamer who doesn't know you exist anyways. Why don't fucking learn a thing or two about a real achiever, huh? Roll out the red carpet, get ready to lick some fucking feet. Here she fucking comes.
My God, between the two of them, there's enough titty milk to end world hunger!
Okay, I do not have the creative writing talent to keep that up for however long this video is gonna be. I'm sorry, I genuinely tried my best. It's actually very hard to be a Mew. Like seriously, try it. Try being an obnoxious and vulgar for like fucking hours on end without coming back to the same wells and repeating the same jokes or phrases. Now that takes some real talent. Also, in writing a lot of mock-ups and doing research to figure out how to make the lines work, I found that it's difficult to work around a guy saying this sort of shit on a script, you know, instead of a weird, loud anime girl in bondage gear. I had so many lines I tried that just did not hit the ear in a pleasant way, and swoop, out they go. I want to do something different with Mew today, if you know what I'm talking about, right, ladies? Ugh. You see, it really is an art form in and of itself, right? It's a good life lesson. Every time you think someone is just being a fucking useless dumbass, try to copy their behavior exactly, and you'll see how hard it really is. I'm the kind of guy who likes breaking new ground. Nothing really fascinates me about just doing another character analysis expose. Ooh, what are their motivations? Well, did you know that this is the message the story is trying to say? Oh, their characters are foils of each other. Isn't that lovely? Do they explore each other's bodies, too? That shit is like getting vanilla when I'm trying to find BDSM, inflation, and body swap tags, you know? Come the fuck on, I want the good shit. So, I always try to fundamentally reframe my new videos, make something poignant. Find a new fetish, you know? The cum dumpster extraordinaire herself. I could tell you about, you know, her imposter syndrome, her comparable traits to Mikon, being someone who deliberately sexualizes herself or klutzes around to attract attention, and or is afraid of rejection and abandonment, anything about her character and why she is the way she is diegetically, and even what it means to V3's overarching themes, I've talked about before in other videos. I mean, I guess I have to do a little of that anyways, but really, that's just a different route of telling the same old story, you know? And it's a story I've read already. I've read it 1,000 times. I've worn out the cover, written all my little fucking notes in the margins. I'm ready to buy a new book. To me, it's much more interesting to think about why Mew was added to this story at all. I mean, sure, where would the world be without her genius brain and Grand Canyon cleavage? But really, regardless of the actual plot or the messages, I think it's reasonable to say that Mew makes the biggest impression for first-time players. This permeates all of V3. You just don't expect it. Mew, and by proxy other characters that are forced to interact with Mew and play off of her abrasive personality, fundamentally shift the entire tone of the game from the predecessors. You just get a different vibe from V3, a raunchier vibe. No limits, anything is fair game. It gives an important sense of freshness and a hint of danger. Like, God, I don't even know how edgy this game is gonna get if we're talking about getting high off our asses and making 20 fucking dick jokes in the prologue alone. This is a character so infectiously vulgar, she annoyed the wholesome, sweet anime Uu Kaide into using the phrase cow udders to insult Miyu's Goran Bonkaru Honkaroos. Now, this is, of course, ties back to the main meta themes of V3. It's pretty common in, like, declining, outstretched series for the writers to try to push some boundaries, push boundaries to drum up a bit of interest. It's a natural escalation of content, after all. Sometimes it's not even intentional. It's fucking human nature, you know? Writers make continuations of series with more oomph. They want bigger spectacles, they want to increase, they want more violence, more sex, more shock. I feel like 99% of the reason that Riverdale even exists is because some brave showrunners wanted to give humanity a warning that they wouldn't soon forget. It's like the fucking Dragon Ball problem, you know? Of course, sometimes it can be done knowingly, and that's the meta angle, of course. A sequel that feels the need to be crass, crude, shocking, and edgy with its crudeness in content in order to escalate. Let's take a step back and talk about meta. Literally, meta of meta of meta. In meta commentary pieces of fiction, it is not uncommon to have the whole cast or a certain selection or one specific character be very crass and rude, very edgy, but they all kind of keep it real. You know, that's the whole concept of Shrek, right? Shrek is a parody. It is a meta work, a parody of pretty little fanciful fairy tales and Disney musicals from the perspective of a crass, crude, literal fucking ogre going around talking mad shit on all the fairy tale stuff, keeping it real, keeping it human. In a bullshit fairy tale, you'd never have some ugly fat dude let rip a mad fart. But in real life, that's just what happens, you know, that's real shit. That's the type of real shit you don't see in those Disney musicals. The crudeness that the fiction being criticized is so unwilling to include or acknowledge that it likes to sugarcoat over and create this, pretty version of. Parodies are often more vulgar than what they are parodies of, partly because it makes so much sense. What is a meta-commentary? A parody, a deconstruction of a genre or a franchise. You're saying the things that are in the backs of our minds, backs of all of our minds. Maybe even not fully formed thoughts, but resting somewhere. There's some dissatisfaction with the current trends, the stale tropes, the lack of authenticity. It is polite to not mention these things. It is polite to not criticize the shitty trends, the stale genres, you know. Oh, I could criticize this here, but you know, everyone does it. You know, it's not polite. So saying what polite society will not say is pretty much the MO for meta. BoJack, another extremely meta show, deconstructing tons of Hollywood culture, sitcom trends, other genre tropes, put it best.
No.
Hey, this table's a little wobbly. You want to yell at the waiter and make a scene?
No, I don't need...
Come on, do that BoJack thing where you make a big deal over nothing and everyone laughs at you, but also at the same time we relate because you're saying all the things polite society won't.
That's not...
Is everything all right over here?
No, everything is not all right. This table's been wobbling all evening. If I wanted to flop around and get seasick for an hour, I'd call your mother. Something in that area, or...
Rude, crude, vulgar characters are the ones who can point out the bullshit in the genres that they are criticizing. Call out the bad tropes, insult the status quo of fiction, point out when they're glossing over the real fucking grimy nature of what they're talking about. In addition to just being more boundary pushing with their content, which lets them be more original and fresh than what they are criticizing. Dick, ass, vagina, golden shower. I'm sorry, I've just been trying to work in more vulgarity into the last couple paragraphs, but I'm running on fumes in that department. Please understand. Vibrator, fellatio, Urban Dictionary, circle jerk.
And then I splooge in her mouth, you know, and I know, and get this. She kisses me and puts it back in my mouth, and I swallow. Which, the cum? I know, so hot. You swallowed your own load? Yeah, I heard of it, but I didn't know it actually happened.
No, I haven't heard about it before.
I have. It's a thing. There's a word for it. I can't remember what it is right now. So fucking hot.
In DR1, that vulgar character who didn't play with polite society, right? That was Toko/Jill. They both kind of served that role. Miyu and Toko are obviously foils. They have tons of similarities. Miyu is the most similar to her out of the entire series. They're both unconfident, neurotic, and they have extreme obsessions with sex, etc. But on a meta level, Toko was a BoJack. Toko was rude, crude, and a gigantic asshole, but she said some of the things that polite society won't say. Take like her issues with Asahina. Now, both Toko and Genocide Jill constantly comment on Hina's huge-ass tits and cleavage, and on a consumer level, when we, genre-savvy whoever, we play some visual novel, watch some anime shit, there's a silent truth, the impolite thing that you don't say, but you're thinking somewhere in the recesses of your mind. When you see an anime girl that looks like Hina, you know on some level this character is here and was designed the way she was designed for sex appeal. Booba. All day, every day. I mean, fan service has to be insanely overt these days for it to get any real comment from people talking about it. But in reality, fan service is in so much fucking media every second of runtime. Blatant sex appeal sitting right in front of your face. Chiaki, Chiaki does not need to be in a skimpy white bikini for you to know that she's designed to be sexy. Just look at her default sprite, her enormous, pronounced chest, insanely, unrealistically tight, fucking form-fitting shirt that somehow defies gravity to contour to her underboob. Just the whole thing, it's constructed to be sexy. At some point, your eyes will glance over these features. They are noticeable and prominent.
Who's there? Who are you? I mean, where are you? Whoa, you're stacked. Jesus Christ. Sorry to point that out.
When Toko and Jill point out Hina's casual sex icon character design elements, she is saying what polite society won't. She is pointing out the reality, in a meta sense, that most media silently doesn't acknowledge. She is calling out the tropes that we see, but we don't talk about all the time. Maybe we're embarrassed to admit that we've glanced at a character sexually, if they're not super overt with it. Maybe we convince ourselves that unless it's super in-your-face fan service, that it's not, intentional or something to be mentioned, whatever. With Miyu, it's a reversal of a reversal. Miyu is the character, Toko was the meta character, the one who is crude and says the things polite society won't, criticizing the tropes that don't get mentioned by polite society, but Miyu is the character who says the things that polite society won't, but she's also a fucking idiot who's wrong about everything she says. She's not like a tough but fair truth sayer like these other characters, like these other, non-polite societyers, who point out things that others refuse to admit or recognize and maybe takes it too far, but they have a nugget of truth there. Miyu is just fucking crazy and says dumb, insane shit. The funny thing is, Miyu is made to be right about things that she has no business being right about. A number of times in V3, Miyu makes a declaration for no fucking reason. Her reasoning is complete nonsense. It's stupid, but it just randomly, magically turns out to be right. Total accident, no logic or intelligence, pure coincidence. Miyu said in Chapter 1 that whoever killed Rantaro must have come out of the hidden door. Miyu guessed multiple culprits correctly extremely early on in the investigations or trials, but then was disproven on account of the stupidity of her reasoning, but she was actually right the whole time. This trend clearly relates to Miyu's role as a deconstruction of the meta character of the impolite truthsayer, the Bojack. It's like Miyu is written by an amateur writer trying to do deconstruction. It's a criticism of bad meta. He just makes the character, say vulgar shit, and makes the plot bend to have her statements be correct. Even if that logic makes no sense to the real world, it wouldn't work that way, and she isn't actually ever making decent points and being a truthsayer. Her vulgarity and cynicism aren't charming affectations born from the necessity of an honest critic. It's just a self-important dumbass trying to act like she's intelligent and has valid criticisms, but she's really just an obnoxious, unpleasant person to be around. Her rudeness isn't her, rattling the cage, breaking the laziness, battering them around into seeing things they don't want to see. She just acts that way because she thinks it's cool or it's funny or whatever, or because of her inflated ego. She thinks that she is Bojack. She thinks that she is the impolite truthsayer, but she's not. As a meta of a meta, there are so many angles we can view this from. On its own merits, meta of a meta character, she's an interesting twist on the meta character of the Bojack. She's a character that tries and fails to point out the meta they exist to berate. In the V3 serialization angle, it's a commentary on the extreme leaps in vulgarity that writers feel the need to take in order to keep interest drum up. It's a commentary on parodies that fail to properly criticize what they were meant to parody, but simply being all obnoxious barking with no real solid arguments, or otherwise meta writers that fail to understand the elements of meta and the importance of having real, substantial, meaningful commentaries to make on the tropes and genre, instead just making dumb, bullshit parody jokes, you know, just being crude and crass, and failing to understand that that's not the same thing.
We will not go quietly into the night. The injustice that Corker Media has unleashed cannot be tolerated. We demand that everyone at Gokaku that was laid off be reinstated immediately. Everyone you see here served the highest calling a talented writer possibly can in this world. We were game journalists. Every day, we slaved against deadlines to post in-depth reviews of video games we weren't skilled enough to finish, wrote thrilling exposés about the projects of our friends and roommates that no one would otherwise give a flying fuck about. And we even published hit pieces on scumbags that make politically insensitive jokes on social media and try to get them fired.
But regardless, V3 would not be the same without Miyu. Maybe there's a corny trend of series trying to be more edgy, crude, vulgar, to draw in more attention, maybe more outrage, more shock, to keep eyes on a faltering series, to keep eyes on a series that they feel needs a bit of a jolt. But you know, it often works. V3 feels like a totally different beast from DR1 or DR2, and a big part of that is Miyu. Each mainline DR game makes a very deliberate effort to make itself feel like a completely different experience, which only highlights the irony of how formulaic and structurally similar each game is to each other. They all follow the same rules, the same beats, the same pattern, but one is trapped in a mystery school, this fucking dark, grimy environment. One is this fucking sunny island paradise, Kamaida fucking jokey romp thing with weird pacing. One is this totally off-the-hook genre annihilation with this crude-ass tone. I honestly think Miyu is more important to the game's overall feel than, say, a character like Oma. The thing that really helps Miyu is contrast. Instead of the whole game being witlessly vulgar like she is, only a select few of the cast engage in that depravity, and everyone else can be more reasonable and less edgy and bounce off of Miyu in fun ways. It makes her personality seem like she's the joke rather than her vulgarity, her vulgar lines being like a writer thinking that that shit is just inherently funny. It's hysterical. Self-aware to defeat the potential cringe. Speaking of edginess, for as edgy as Miyu is as a character with the shit that she says, she's, funnily enough, not really edgy at all. She's not a dark, violent depiction of cruel ideas and a cynical look into sex and violence or anything. She's a wannabe edgelord. She is a juvenile idiot trying to play with grown-up words and phrases. She thinks she's edgier than she really is. She thinks she's more mature and darker, and simply by saying crude shit. This is in her whole personality. She always talks the whole game about being able to kill people, or, it's no big deal, that person's dead, heh, so what, I'm so dark, I'm so edgy, one less moron to deal with, and that kind of stuff. And she even thought that she could kill someone, but she couldn't! She was just pretending to be edgy and mature and whatever. Like most stories written with that level of vulgarity and sex and violence, the shit Miyu spouts is just pretending to be mature, when in reality, Miyu just loves fucking magic shows and watching children's television. So in the end, making the game fundamentally more vulgar and shocking, it's not necessarily a bad idea. That's always what I get from Danganronpa, the whole series. Like I've said before, I feel like the main lesson from all of DR is that there are no bad ideas. Anything that seems shitty, you just have to find the right way to use it, or appreciate it maybe, to make fun of it. You can have fun with anything. Like a kid going outside to play with some sticks, you know? Like saying a stick isn't a fun toy is just a lack of imagination, it's a lack of a sense of humor. That's also what I've gotten out of the characters, you know, who are, on a meta level, representations of some of these specific tropes. Miyu was very disliked by most of the cast. She was an obnoxious, rude, selfish idiot, but she didn't deserve to die. And the same can be said of the tropes that she embodies. These tropes, these trends in media of pushing vulgarity and witless, edgelord fuckery, they might miss some steps, they might frequently be bad and annoying, but as trends, as tropes, as ideas for writers to use, they don't deserve to die. There's a way to make it work. You just have to try to find it. You gotta nurture it and help it thrive. Maybe if you pour some hot wax on its back, it'll spike right up, you know what I'm saying? Pour one out for Miu's golden brain and bountiful mountains, gone, but not forgotten.
I'd kill to have tits like that.
That's all I got from you today, Dick Rods. See you later.